that any of the Rule 3.3 parties who want to apply for Mr. Holden to be recalled for cross-examination should be given the full period of 2 weeks, which would be 2 weeks today, to make such an application. But that the potential prejudice to this party that has complained can be addressed by not mentioning the name of the party or disclosing it inadvertently in any of the tables in the report or the like.
The difficulty, of course, which immediately arises if we do that in regard to this particular party, is what about parties who may not have had a chance to notify us that they take the same stance? Because there may be letters that haven't reached you, haven't reached us, that maybe are in with the secretary, or that were only seen by those parties this morning, and therefore they have not been able to notify us. They may be lucky that they saw this on Saturday and were able to send the notice yesterday, the letter yesterday, but there may be others who are in the same position who would be making the same request or complaint if there was enough time.
Chair, I can confirm that as of 8:30 this morning, this was the only complaint of this nature that had been made. Other people had corresponded with the Commission in response to the report, but there had been no other complaints of this nature.
I mean, if in regard to anyone who had received the 3.3 notice over the weekend and has communicated and has not taken the same stance, that may be fine. But I think the difficulty would arise with regard to somebody from whom we have not received anything, maybe because they only became aware of the letter at 9 as we were starting. You know, now they say, just because DM5's client happened to see it or to see the 3.3 notice over the weekend and they were able to send a notice yesterday, they are given a certain treatment, but they are not given the same treatment just because they only saw the 3.3 notice at 9. They might complain that it's unfair.
Chair, I take that point. It may be that, I mean, there are possibly two steps that need to be taken. The first is I can get instructions from the Secretariat as to a full list of who has acknowledged the report. And it may be that we need to consider standing down at least for a couple of hours, because by Monday morning, there's people who didn't receive who weren't aware of the report on the weekend are much more likely to gradually to become aware of the report. Can I ask that the matter stand down briefly? I'll then get instructions from Secretariat. If it turns out that we have acknowledgements from any of the parties that may be potentially named or implicated this morning, then we can proceed immediately. If it turns out that there are some who we don't, then we'll need to decide how much time would be a fair time to...
Yeah. Of course, the other complicating factor, and for that I'm responsible, is that we are starting at 9, whereas our usual starting time is at 10.
Indeed.
Those parties, I don't know, the 3.3 notice might not have told them we start at 9.
I have looked at it, it doesn't. It just mentions the day, not the time.
Because it was prepared, obviously, on the basis of the usual starting time. And the idea of starting earlier is something that happened after. So whoever has got the 3.3 notice might be saying, okay, they are starting at 10. I'm going to make sure that by 9:30, a letter has been sent off to them and to us, and so on. So certainly we can stand down. Obviously, the idea of starting at 9 is just to try and make use of as much time as possible. This being as we approach the end of oral evidence. That is the one thing. So we can stand down. We must just look at for how long. Two, of course, as you will be aware, there is provision in the rules to the effect that if any party feels that they have not been given a reasonable notice in terms of Rule 3.3, they can apply to the chairperson for such relief as may possibly address whatever prejudice may have arisen out of not being given a reasonable notice. Of course, there might be prejudice that can be addressed. There might be prejudice that can't be addressed. So, but I'm just saying there is that provision. And of course, I think there have been instances where, or I think the rules have been understood to mean that there may be cases where an implicated party doesn't get given advance notice in an appropriate case, and there can be circumstances where there is justification for giving a shorter notice than the notice provided for in the rules. So I think we can stand down, and such checking as may need to be done would be done with the Secretary to see which parties may have communicated, and then when we resume, we can take it from there. In the meantime, I think I had indicated to the ESCOM work stream that at 9:45, I could briefly hear an application for leave to cross-examine one of the ESCOM witnesses. And I had said I would give ESCOM's lawyers about 10 or 15 minutes to present their argument. And then I would decide the matter. So there is that. So I don't know what time you had in mind for us to resume if we stand the matter down now.
Well, Chair, I take your point that it will have to be after 10 o'clock at the very least.
Yeah.
So if we take 10 o'clock as the point at which we should take a final look at what the Secretariat has received by way of acknowledgement, can I suggest we stand down until 10:30?
Yeah, I think 10:30 would be fine. How many parties, more or less, are we looking at who could be potentially affected?
The number of Rule 3.3s is close to 200.
Oh, okay.
So it's a huge number.
Okay.
Although, in terms of the structure of Mr. Holden's evidence, the vast majority, we could certainly structure matters so that we could advance Mr. Holden's evidence significantly without without touching on more than maybe 30 of those implicated parties.
Yes. Well, during the break, you may wish to reflect on whether the circumstances are not such that as long as the implicated parties have been notified that Mr. Holden would be giving evidence today that may implicate them, that is not enough, even to mention their names, on the basis that while that may not be the best situation, but sometimes given the kind of investigation that the Commission is doing, it may well be that there may be justification in proceeding, as long as they know and they are not caught off by surprise with a TV or radio mention of their name without knowing what's happening. But you are much closer to the evidence than I may be, and you may be in a better position to take a view on that. But certainly, I think we have had situations where, actually we have had many situations where people who are implicated by witness evidence have received a shorter notice which did not allow them to file any affidavit, but were notified that on that day a certain witness who would implicate them would give evidence, and then of course condonation is asked for the failure to give a full 14 days notice. And of course, that is taken into account together with the rule I was talking about earlier, about any order that might help address any prejudice. I do remember that we had at some stage a situation where some implicated parties had to be notified at least by telephone because of the particular circumstances, just to make sure that at least if they hear on television that a witness has said something that implicates them, they are aware, and then of course they could always apply. So I'm just mentioning all of those for you to reflect on, and then when we resume, you can indicate what you think should be done. Of course, having looked at Mr. Holden's report, I'm inclined to think that for the benefit of the public, it would be important to give Mr. Holden as much time as we can give for him to deal with the report properly, because I think it's very important for the public to understand what the investigations have revealed in relation to the flow of funds and so on. So, but reflect on it, and then when we resume, then we can take it from there.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Okay, we are going to stand the matter down until 10:30. And at 9:45, I may come back to deal with another matter. We adjourn. Yes, Mr. Chaskerson.
Chair, if I can give an update, but I've just noticed that Mr. Holden doesn't seem to be with us. I wonder if we could ask for him to be connected. So,
yeah. If the technician, there he appears now. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Chair, I have an update, which is there has been one further complaint, and I have a list of entities that have electronically acknowledged receipt of the Rule 3.3. I am going to propose that we proceed today on a basis which I will outline to you, Chair, which is calculated to minimize prejudice to any interest, to any affected parties. At the outset, I would submit that condonation of a departure from Rule 3 is certainly possible, and this Commission has in fact condoned such departures on many occasions in the past. In fact, in relation to the evidence of Mr. Agrizzi, no Rule 3.3s were sent out until after his evidence because of the particular risk that advance notice might have posed in that case. I would submit that in this case, we're dealing obviously not with as threatening a situation as that which was presented by Mr. Agrizzi, but still an extraordinary situation, which is that disclosure of the report would have prejudiced ongoing investigations into money laundering within South Africa. The Reserve Bank specifically requested additional time to take whatever steps it could take to minimize that prejudice, and in particular to be able to take those steps until close of business on Friday last week. In those circumstances, I would submit that a departure would be justified and that prejudice to the two complaining parties can be contained by not mentioning their names in this evidence or in any of the pages of the report that will be displayed in the course of this evidence. And we'll just refer to them as Company A and Company B. And of course, in relation to all other interested and affected parties, nobody loses their right to apply to cross-examine Mr. Holden, or indeed to put up their version on oath. And Mr. Holden's evidence will only be, the report itself will only be put online when Mr. Holden's evidence has been completed. And what I would propose to you, Chair, is that we excise from the evidence that we will deal with today, the section of the report that deals with the largest numbers of interested and affected parties, where there would be the greatest potential risk of prejudice to innocent parties. And I will tailor this report to deal only with parties, well, I think it would be about 30 parties who would be named in that process. And those parties will not have a report published online that mentions them until after they have had the opportunity to respond. The two that have specifically taken issue with this process and said that they do intend to respond, we will not mention at this stage. And for the rest, if parties do choose to respond at a later stage, and if they have a version contrary to Mr. Holden's, we can put that to Mr. Holden. If Mr. Holden wants to retract his version on the strength of that, the version that will go out publicly will do that. If he does not, then we can possibly post both versions online so that the public can see what the competing positions are. And on that basis, I would ask if we can continue today and it will be necessary for Mr. Holden to come back at a later stage to deal with the section that deals with the with the big money laundering networks, where there are very many interested and affected parties named, and which I do not propose to address today.
No, that's fine. We can proceed on that basis. We can proceed on that basis.
Thank you, Chair.
Good morning, Mr. Holden.
Good morning, Chair.
Thank you for coming back. Shall we do the affirmation or oath now, and then you can proceed?
Thank you, Chair.
Please administer the oath or affirmation.
Please state your full names for the record.
Paul Edward Holden.
Do you have any objection to making the prescribed affirmation?
I do not.
Do you affirm that the evidence you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "I truly affirm."
I truly affirm.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Yes, Mr. Chaskowson, you might wish to briefly outline the purpose of his evidence, just for the benefit of the public.
I will do that, Chair.
Yes.
Well, in fact, that was actually that was going to be one of my very first questions to Mr. Holden.
Well, you can do it that way. That's fine.
But before I do that, Chair, may I attend to a few matters of housekeeping?
Yeah.
The first is just to check that you have the full range of bundles relevant to Mr. Holden's evidence. Mr. Holden's main report is in FOF bundle 9. It runs from pages 1 to 474.
I have got bundle FOF bundle 9. You say it goes up to?
Well, the annexures start on page 475. The report ends on 474 of bundle 9.
On my one, the report ends on page 475, and the annexures start on page 476.
I apologize, Chair. My note was wrong. I have the same one, which is
all right. And then the annexures go up to page, 900 or something?
Well, they go to the end of that bundle, and then they carry on, Chair. They go all the way to bundle 16.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Now, we will, for the most part today, not refer to annexures just because of pressures of time.
Yes.
But I just do want to check that you have bundles 10 to 16 as well, which will include the annexures if we do have to refer to some.
Yeah, my registrar says I do have.
And then, Chair, there are
Then I've got this green file here, which has got DM5's letter on the top, but it's got other documents.
It has an executive summary. It should have an executive summary underneath, and then two additional annexures, but I will, one of which belongs in the report, and one of which I'm going to introduce through Mr. Holden later.
Okay.
But if we can deal with those as we get to them.
Okay. No,
Chair, there is a last set of annexure files which requires specific treatment. That's bundles 17 to 19. And those are bank statements. And now, as you will see, and the public will see in the course of this evidence, Mr. Holden testifies about literally thousands of individual bank transactions in one way or another linked to state capture. Those bundles, FOF 17 to FOF 19, contain 3,000 pages of bank statements which underpin the tables that you will see in Mr. Holden's report. Now, the problem with the bank statements is that they're not, on one page you will have possibly one transaction that is relevant to Mr. Holden's report, but you will have 40 transactions that are not. And within those 40 transactions, there may well be private information relating to individuals who are wholly unconnected to anything here, like, for instance, salary information of individuals and material like that. Now, we thought initially that what we would propose to do is to redact everything other than the individual transaction.
Yeah. Yes.
But that would be a monumental exercise and would achieve very little in the end, because all that one would have is a single transaction that mirrors something up at in the report itself. And instead what we would propose, Chair, is that those bank statements are not made public when the report is published on the internet. But that, of course, if any interested party who sees the tables of transactions that Mr. Holden quotes in his report says, you say this amount was paid by Transnet to my company on such and such a date, that's wrong. If anyone raises a dispute, we will then produce a redacted bank statement in respect of a specific dispute that has been raised. So if anybody wants to put in issue any of the transactions that are recorded in Mr. Holden's report itself, we will produce the bank statement, and you, Chair, of course, will have sight of all of those bank statements, but in the interests of third-party privacy, we submit the public should not have access to those 3,000 pages of bank statements.
No, I think that is sensible. We will not, are we not going to need a properly crafted order to reflect exactly what you say that I can make in due course?
Chair, I think in terms of the privacy provision, the simple order would be to rule that bundles FOF 17, FOF 18 and FOF 19 are not to be made public.
Yeah.
Provided that any interested and affected person who disputes a particular transaction in the report will be entitled to be provided with proof of that transaction from the relevant bank statement in those volumes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just saying, maybe if you could, in due course, prepare a draft
formal
order
draft order. I will do that, Chair.
Yeah, okay. All
Thank
right.
you. Then the last issue of housekeeping relates to a number of corrections, minor corrections, that one I need to just raise with Mr. Holden before we get into the detail of his report. The first is that on page 82 of Bundle 9, there is a reference to Mr. John Duarte as the son of Mrs. Jessie Duarte. Mr. Holden, can you just correct, can you identify why that is wrong and what it needs to be corrected to?
Certainly, Chair. John Duarte is actually the ex-husband of Mrs. Duarte, not the son.
And then if one goes to page 440 of the report, of the bundle, 440 bundle 9, there is a heading 10.1.3 that is described as the Trillion Asset Management Loan.
What page did you say that is, Mr.?
440 of bundle 9.
440, okay. Yes, I'm there.
And Mr. Holden, can you just tell the Chair what the correct company's name that should be mentioned there is?
Certainly, Chair, and apologies for the typo there. It should be Trillion Management Consulting and not Trillion Asset Management.
It should be Trillion Management.
Management Consulting.
Okay, that is in 10.1.3.
In the heading to 10.1.3,
yeah.
Chair. Yes.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay.
And just to point out, Chair, that if one goes to the body of the text under 10.1.3, it's clear that the entity is Trillion Management Consulting, not Trillion Asset Management. Trillion Asset Management isn't mentioned in the section other than in the heading.
Yes, okay.
I do want, it's quite an important distinction to make, Chair, because the two companies are owned by different entities, and Trillion Asset Management has in fact been bought out of liquidation and exists as a company today. So its name shouldn't be confused with Trillion Management Consulting, which is the entity that's to which 10.1.3 relates.
Okay, no, that's fine.
And then finally, Mr. Holden, there are throughout your report references to Tegeta Resources. Can you give the Chair the full name of the company that you refer to when the report is, mentions Tegeta Resources?
Absolutely, Chair. I'm referring to Tegeta Exploration and Resources, Pty Limited.
So any reference to Tegeta Resources should be understood as a reference to Tegeta Exploration and Resources, Pty Limited.
That's correct, Chair.
Thank you.
Then, Mr. Holden, can I ask you to go to page 475 of the bundle, where there is a signature at the foot of the report.
What's that page again?
475.
Okay.
And can you confirm that that is your signature?
Chair, it is indeed my signature.
And can you confirm that, subject to the corrections that we have raised with the Chair, to the best of your knowledge and belief, the contents of this report are true?
That's correct, Chair, I do.
Okay.
Then, Mr. Holden, I understand that, well, not I understand, I know that you have prepared an executive summary of your report. That, Chair, is the document, the second document in the file that has been put before you.
The green file.
The green file, indeed, Chair. And I would, Chair, this is a document which will be a much easier document off which to lead Mr. Holden in this evidence, and I would ask if we could introduce it as an exhibit. It will serve two purposes. One, it will provide a framework for this oral evidence, but two, it also provides, not a short, because it's over 70 pages, but it provides a digested account of an incredibly detailed and lengthy report, which will be very useful for the public to see.
Yes.
So might I ask, Chair, that that document be admitted as an exhibit?
Yes.
And having asked that, Chair, I don't yet have... Mr. Holden's report itself is VV10.
VB10.
Double V10.
Yes.
Can I ask that this be entered as exhibit double V10 capital A? Because I think that there is already a double V11 in later flow of funds evidence.
Okay. The executive summary Holden's report will be admitted and will be marked as Exhibit BB10, capital letter A.
Thank you, Chair. Now, Mr. Holden, you have testified before the Commission previously in the first week of December last year, and in your statement that you confirmed in evidence on 3 December last year, there was attached a copy of your CV. I don't want you to go through your CV again, but can you very briefly just remind the Chair who you are and what you do?
Certainly, Chair. I am a South African citizen. I'm currently Director of Investigations at Shadow World Investigations. Shadow World Investigations is a small non-profit entity that is run by myself and my colleague, Mr. Andrew Feinstein, who's a former African National Congress Member of Parliament. Shadow World Investigations undertakes detailed investigations into issues of grant corruption and conducts advocacy around that. In terms of my personal experience, I've been investigating grant corruption related to the defense sector and other sectors for the better part of 13 years. I also serve as an investigative methods trainer and have trained approximately 1,000 journalists, mostly from the Middle East and North Africa, but also from Sub-Saharan Africa as well.
That's fine. Before you proceed, Mr. Gustafson, this green file had included in it DM5's letter. I'm taking it out. Is there any reason why it should be in the file?
No, the green file merely included documents that I was going to refer to you, Chair. So it also includes two additional documents beyond the executive summary that are behind the executive summary, which are one needs to be added to the annexures to Mr. Holden's evidence, but it will only be addressed when Mr. Holden returns.
Yes.
The second is a document that should have been in Mr. Holden's as an annexure to Mr. Holden's report, but we overlooked that, and which I would want to introduce as a new exhibit. But if I can do that when we get to it.
No, that's fine. But you agree I can
the
take
DM5,
out the DM5
indeed,
letter.
the DM5 letter does not
That's
need
not
to
an exhibit, yeah.
It's not an exhibit, indeed, Chair.
Okay.
Then, Mr. Holden, can I ask you to give a very, very brief outline of what the purpose of your evidence today and when you return will be, and what matter is traversed in your report. And for that purpose, if I might ask you to go to the executive summary annexure VV10 capital A at page 6, paragraph 1, where you set out in useful form, in neatly summarized form, what your report attempts to do.
Certainly, Chair. To read from the report, this report sets out the known and evidenced flow of funds passing to the benefit of the Gupta enterprise from state capture. The report examines A, the total cost to state of contracts afflicted by state capture, B, the total amounts paid irregularly and directly to the Gupta enterprise entities by the state, the total amount paid to Gupta enterprise entities by contractors to the state that secured their own income through an irregular relationship with the Gupta enterprise. D, the total amount paid to the Gupta enterprise in the form of kickbacks, which has particular relevance to the Transnet 95, 100 and 106 locomotive procurement contracts, and further crane contracts placed by Transnet with ZPMC and Liebherr cranes. The total amount, as at E, the total amount paid into a complicated and extensive local laundry through first level laundry entities to the benefit of the Gupta enterprise, and we will outline what we mean by first level laundry entities a little bit later, I'm sure. The operation of a complex local laundromat that received funds from state capture and dissipated it onwards, usually abroad into enormous and complex international money laundering operations based in Hong Kong, China, and Dubai. At G, the operation, as far as can be established, of vast international money laundering operations that were used by the Gupta enterprise, alongside many other criminal actors, to receive and dissipate criminally derived funds. Paragraph 2, evidence leader, should I refer to paragraph 2 as well?
Please do.
Chair, at paragraph 2, further, this report sets out the manner in which the Gupta enterprise made use of funds accruing to it through criminal activity, including how these funds were recycled and used to purchase significant assets, such as Optimum holdings, and to ensure the liquidity of the enterprise's legitimate businesses, legitimate is in parentheses. This includes a discussion of A, the manner in which the majority of funds used to buy Optimum Holdings, the parent company of Optimum Coal Mine, derived from proceeds of crime, the manner in which the Gupta enterprise used criminal funds to repay a certain proportion of the loan taken out by Oak Bay Investments and others from the Industrial Development Corporation to purchase Shiva uranium, the manner in which funds laundered through Albertine were used to balance Sahara Computers' books, where the company would not be able to, on the basis of its own business, and not appearing here, dear sadly, but which we will address in evidence, is also the manner in which Inkonki Inc. Was bought with criminally tainted funds.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Before we get to the detail of the report, can I ask you briefly to outline the evidentiary approach taken to the presentation of the report and how you support how you will support the conclusions that you draw in the report and what evidence you use?
Absolutely. Chair, in addition to the annexures that form part of the flow of funds bundles, and as the evidence leader mentioned, we refer to a very, very, very large number of bank statements and bank transactions, including every single transaction as an annexure was very challenging, and certainly it would be very challenging to refer to every annexure in evidence. So the route that we have taken is to concatenate and identify all the key payments into tables in the main report, of which I think there are over 250 tables. And those tables are then referenced against particular annexures that will be attached at flow of funds. I think it's 17 to 19, if I'm correct. And every single transaction in those tables will be cross-referenced to those statements. That's in addition, of course, to quite a substantial number of supporting documents that aren't bank statements, such as contracts and relevant emails, and also extracts from what are known as the Gupta leaks.
Now, the contracts that you cover in the report are contracts by organs of state that you characterize as being afflicted by state capture. There are many of these contracts which have been the subject of extensive evidence before the Commission already, and your report doesn't traverse that evidence at all. It merely takes it as granted. But there are some contracts that you mention here for the first time that haven't been seen in evidence in the report. And can you just briefly tell the Chair and the public how you justify your conclusion that those contracts are irregular contracts tainted by state capture?
Certainly, Chair. There's a number of tests we applied. The first would be the evidence that had been gathered mostly by the contracts team, which provided a narrative as to the manner in which contracts were entered. And as we'll see as we go through the evidence, there was all number of contracts that were entered into by deviation without competitive bidding or awarded with very clear and material irregularities. In addition to which, we have identified those contracts where there are payments made to what we call the first level laundries, where those first level laundries cannot be conceived of as performing any legitimate business service, but were instead conduits directing payments to the benefit of the Gupta enterprise. And where that was the case, we also included those as contracts afflicted by state capture.
And Mr. Holden, you referred to the contracts team. That would be the Commission's team that was investigating contracts afflicted by state capture. I assume. Thank you, Mr. Holden. Can we then start getting into some of the important numbers? And the first number I want to ask you to report to the chair is the total amounts paid by the state in contracts that were tainted by state capture according to your investigations. And
Absolutely, Chair.
If you can just give us that number.
The number is 49,157,323,233 rand and 68. And to make that easier for the people making the transcriptions, that's 49,157,323,233.68.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Holden. Now I'm going to ask you to turn to page 152, where there is a very lengthy table which explains how you reach that number of 49 billion and a bit. But before I do so, I want to remind you that there are two entities whose names are on the original version of that table, and who have raised objections to the late delivery of Rule 3.3s. I just want to confirm that you have redacted from that table, which I'm going to ask you to display, the names of both of those entities.
Chair, I have done so.
And we can refer to them, because we will be referring to them at various points, we can just refer to them as Company A and Company B. So can I then ask you to take the chair to page 153 of Flow of Funds Bundle 9. Table 73 at page 152 of Bundle 9.
Chair, I have just shared the screen. I just want to make sure that it is showing up on your screens.
Yes, it is showing up. I'm just double checking that.
Chair, I've given you the wrong reference. I must apologize. It's table 73 on page 153. It's at the foot of 153.
Yes, okay, I've got it now. That's what I was trying to check, whether it was the same as what I had. Yes, okay, all right. Yes, we've got it, Mr. Holden.
And can I ask you to go literally line by, I think we'll need that a little bit larger, because I'm not sure that people will see it from there.
Yeah, they will struggle. That's better.
And can you go literally line by line, describing the organ of state, who it paid, what the amount was, and what the percentage of the total amount of 49 billion odd is?
Absolutely. Chair, so just to describe the table, obviously the far left column describes the government entity that's making the payment. The second identifies the entity to which the payment was made. The third column identifies the total expenditure by the state that we've been able to identify. And then finally, in the last column, I have calculated the contribution of that particular state expenditure against the total figure of funds we've identified as being paid out in contracts afflicted by state capture. And I should mention, Chair, just to clarify, that when I say in this evidence, contracts afflicted by state capture, what I'm referring to is contracts afflicted by state capture involving the Gupta enterprise. I'm sure there's many other contracts that need to be discussed in relation to state capture that don't involve the Gupta enterprise, but that isn't the substance of this report. So with that said, the first entry...
Yes, just hang on one,
Mr. was the free state...
hang on, Mr. Holden. I don't know whether something can be done. I don't think that reception is the best. Mr. Holden seems to be breaking when he speaks. I assume that's technology.
I think it is, Chair. I'm not sure where the problem is, whether it's on our side or his side.
Yes.
We might, if we possibly can try to attend to that at a tea break, we could even do that now if that would
I
be
think
convenient.
he can continue, but at least if the technicians can try and look at that insofar as they are able to while we continue. We are 5 minutes away from the tea break. We could continue, but also I was thinking whether we should take the tea break with the delay we had earlier on. But what do you say, Mr. Transposition?
I'm in your hands, Chair. I'm certainly happy to continue.
Yeah.
Maybe the technicians can try and attend to it in the background.
Yeah, yes. Let me find out. Can the technicians attend to it in the background? Okay, they'll work on it. Okay, let's continue without taking the tea break for now. Then maybe we'll see around 12 o'clock whether we should take a short break or not.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Holden, can you then go literally line by line through this table?
Absolutely. Chair, so to begin with the first entry, the government entity is the Free State Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. They paid New Lane Investments 204. The amount that they paid was 24,984,240 rand. That's 24,984,240.00, and the percentage in relation to state capture. The second entry is the Free State Department.
Okay, hang on, Mr. Holden. I think you broke. Just repeat that number for that first entity is 24,984,240.00. I think when you, yeah, okay, go to the second item, line.
The second line is the Free State Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, which paid to Estina Pty Limited, which we've heard about in previous evidence. And the total state expenditure there was 280,202,652.00, and its contribution to the total funds dispersed by the state in relation to state capture is 0.57%. The third entry is the Free State Department of Education, which paid an entity called Sunbay Trading, and the amount that they paid was 28,500,000.00, which contributed 0.06% of the total funds related to state capture. The Free State Office of the Premier, which paid Sunbay Trading in an amount of 4,578,810.00, which contributed 0.01%, the total amount related to state capture. The Free State Department of Health, which paid Cureva and later renamed Mediosa Health, 25,188.00, and that percentage figure is 0.05%. The Northwest Department of Health paid Cureva/Mediosa Health 30,000,000, that's 30 million rand, and that's 0.06% of the total state capture funds spent by the state. The Free State Department of Agriculture and Rural Development paid Tsebo Business Intelligence an amount of 12,492,500.00, and which percentage is 0.03%. The Free State Department of Agriculture and Rural Development paid a company we will refer to as Company A an amount of 2,487,480, which is 0.01% of the total state capture funds. The Free State Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs paid Nova Management Consulting an amount of 6,972,395.04, which is 0.01% of the total state capture funds. South African Airways, SAA, paid Regiments Capital an amount of 6,241,500. That percentage is 0.01%. SA Express paid Regiments Capital an amount of 8,218,123.20, which amounts to 0.02%. Transnet paid to Regiments Capital an amount of 1,015,051,242.21, which contributes 2.06% of the total amounts paid by the state in relation to state capture. The Free State Provident Fund paid Regiments Capital an amount of 2,319,216, which is less than 0.01%, as you can see there. Denel paid to Regiments Capital an amount of 7,980,000, which is equal to 0.02% of total state capture funds. SAFCOL paid Regiments Capital 5,711,400, which is 0.01%.
Sorry, Mr. Holden, just to interrupt at that point. Not everyone knows who SAFCOL are. Am I correct that they're the South African Forestry Company Limited?
That's correct, Chair.
Can you continue?
Certainly, Chair. This entry is actually, I've used the wrong name here. It's actually the Transnet second Defined Benefit Fund, which paid Regiments Capital 248,729,210, which is 0.51%. Transnet, which paid the Trillion Group 169,859,999.91, which contributes 0.35%. Eskom, which paid the Trillion Group 595,228,913.29, which contributes 1.21%. SA Express, which paid the Trillion Group 5,700,000.00, which is 0.01% of all state capture amounts. Transnet paid to Neotel an amount of 5,581,955,471.63, which contributes 11.36% of the total state capture funds paid out. Eskom paid to McKinsey an amount of 1,108,164,558.26, which is 2.25% of the total state capture funds disbursed by the state. Transnet paid to McKinsey 687,970,961.05, which contributed 1.4%. South African Airways paid to McKinsey an amount of 6,243,210, which contributed 0.01%.
Sorry, Mr. Holden. Mr. Holden, if I can just interrupt there. We've heard evidence earlier that McKinsey has repaid the Eskom amount and has undertaken to repay the full amount of the Transnet and SAA amounts that you've just quoted. Well, I don't know if the full amount that they say they earn from SAA and Transnet. To the best of your knowledge, has anybody else on this list repaid the full amount of what you see on this list?
Not to the best of my knowledge, no.
Thank you. Can you continue?
Certainly. Returning to the line item, Transnet paid to Combined Private Investigations an amount of 151,698,373.17, which contributed 0.31% to the total state capture amount. I'm sure we'll address the reasons we include this a little bit later in evidence. Eskom paid to Nkonki Inc. an amount of 5,861,759.16, which is 0.01%. Eskom paid to Deloitte an amount of 236,226,517.93, which contributes 0.48%. Eskom paid to KPMG an amount of 63,280,377.50, which amounts to 0.13%. Eskom paid to PwC an amount of 107,773,438.56, which is a percentage amount of 0.22. Transnet paid to Cutting Edge an amount of 45,984,113.24, which is 0.09%. Eskom further paid to Cutting Edge an amount of 107,773,438.56, which is 0.22%. Eskom paid SAP, which is Systems Applications Products, an amount of 564,733,122.57, which is 1.15% of total funds dispersed. Transnet paid to SAP an amount of 225,883,124.88, which contributes 0.46%. Transnet paid to Zestalor an amount of 13,407,883.18, which amounts to 0.03%. Transnet paid to Zestalor via Innovant Asset Management an amount of 222,839,809.93, which is 0.45% of total state capture funds. Transnet paid an amount to a company we'll refer to as Company B, an amount of 4,529,377,797.46, which contributed 9.21% of total state capture funds dispersed. Eskom paid to Denton South Africa an amount of 20,892,885.56, which amounts to 0.04% of state capture funds dispersed. Denel paid to Denton South Africa an amount of 5,997,422.24, which is an amount of 0.01%. The SABC paid to Lorna Vision an amount of 62,733,557.24, which contributed 0.13 to the total state capture funds. Eskom paid to Together Exploration and Resources an amount of 2,442,523,980.95, which contributed an amount of 4.97%. Eskom paid to Optimum Coal an amount of 1,682,026,066.26, which is 3.42% of total state capture funds. And then turning to the following page, which is Flow of Funds 09155. The Industrial Development Corporation, or IDC, paid to Oak Bay Investments, Oak Bay Resources and Action Investments an amount of 250,000,000.00, which is 250 million rand, which contributed 0.51% to total state capture funds. Eskom paid to the New Age Media, TNA Media, an amount of 35,401,246,60, which contributed 0.07% of state capture funds. Transnet paid to TNA Media an amount of 144,147,790.00, which contributed 0.29%. The Office of the Premier of the Free State transferred to TNA Media an amount of 42,062,906.36. That's 0.09%. The Free State Treasury paid TNA Media an amount of 11,331,233.68, which is equal to 0.02%. The Office of the Premier of Mpumalanga paid TNA Media an amount of 6,581,301.20, which is 0.01% of state capture funds. The Office of the Premier of the Northwest Province paid TNA Media an amount of 9,308,888.02, which contributed 0.02% of state capture funds. Danell paid to VR Laser an amount of 242,425,736.70, which is 0.49%. Transnet paid to an entity called Global Softtech Solutions, also GSS in the report, an amount of 16,199,400.00, which is 0.03% of state capture funds. Transnet on the 95 locomotive procurement paid CSR China South Rail an amount of 3,432,869,565.21, which contributed 6.98% of state capture funds. Transnet on the 100 locomotive procurement paid CSR an amount of 5,159,831,654.92, which is equal to 10.50%. Transnet in relation to the 359 locomotive procurement paid CSR/CRRC 14,910,751,921.66, which is equal to 30.33%. Transnet in relation to the 232 locomotive procurement paid CNR/CRRC an amount of 20823,869,773.71, which is 5.74%. Transnet paid to Lieber Cranes an amount of 841,098,842.64, which contributed 1.71%. Transnet paid to ZPMC an amount of 877,806,234.00, which contributed 1.79%. And when totaled together, we come to an amount of 49,157,323,233.68.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. I must apologize for doing this, but as you were going through those numbers, I picked up a transposition error. Can I ask you to go back up to Eskom and cutting edge? It's in the middle of page 153. What appears to have happened in respect of that number is that the number for PwC has been copied there inadvertently. Can I ask you to go to table 64 on page 144?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairperson.
Chair,
see cutting edge on 153?
It's...
Is it the bottom table?
It's the... I beg your pardon, Chair. It's 154. It's 154.
Oh.
I apologize.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I see it at 154.
So the figure of 107,773,438.56 is an erroneous copy of the figure for PwC. Mr. Holden has gone to table 64 and page 144, and the correct figure to insert there is about 12 million less. Mr. Holden, can you just read out that figure?
The correct figure is 95,598,913.44.
Is that correct figure for Eskom's cutting edge or for...
Eskom's cutting edge, Chair.
Okay, so the correct figure... just repeat it, Mr. Holden.
Certainly, Chair. It is 95,598,913.
I'm sorry again, Mr. Holden. I went to the Transnet cutting edge instead of the Eskom cutting edge. So just repeat the ESCOM cutting edge one, the correct one.
Certainly, Chair. It is 95,598,913.44.
.44.
Correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, what we will do is in the copy of the report that is finally published, we will insert the correct figure, and the total of 49,157 billion will drop to 49,145 billion. It's not going to affect anything in significant detail. We're talking about less than 0.02%.
Yes. Okay, but the ESCOM cutting edge was the only page where we needed to make corrections?
As far as Mr. Holden and I are aware,
Yeah,
Chair.
okay, all right. Okay.
Mr. Holden, we've now gone line by line through each of these state capture contracts.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Chairperson. So that will affect the total of 49 billion a little bit.
Well, it will still be 49 billion. It will be 49 billion 145 million,
Okay.
not 49 billion 157
Okay.
million.
No, that's fine. Okay.
Mr. Holden, many of these contracts have not been traversed in evidence in the Commission, and I'd like to take you to those that haven't been traversed in evidence so you can explain your reasoning for including them on this list. And the first one is the New Lane Investments contract, and for that purpose, can I ask you to go to page 34 of Flow Funds Bundle 9?
There was evidence on New Lane. I don't know if this is a different one in regard to the Free State.
Oh, Chair, well
Yes,
then
when I looked at these entities, there are only a few that I thought I hadn't had evidence about.
Chair,
Actually, my recollection is that it might even be less than 6, 7. At least those that I picked up. Most of the entities, I thought the evidence had been had. I don't think I had evidence about the Office of the Premier in Mpumalanga. I know I haven't had evidence, I think, about SAP. And I know I haven't had evidence, I think, about, is it Liber, the Cranes transaction? So there are only a few that I had heard about outside of the evidence of the Commission. Most of them, I have had evidence. But of course...
Thank you, Chair. Well, I certainly don't want to duplicate evidence to Mr. Holden, who hasn't obviously got first-hand knowledge of evidence that you have already had. My knowledge of the record of this Commission is nowhere near as comprehensive as yours, Chair.
So I think what can be done is those that you or he has identified, as you mentioned the entity, I will indicate if I've had. But also, it might be that I've had evidence in relation to a particular entity in regard to one transaction, and maybe this is about another transaction, I'm not sure.
The New Lane transaction that you would have heard evidence about is the same one that we're talking here.
Okay.
So we won't traverse the same ground.
Yeah.
Mr. Holden's documents are in his report. They can... we can merely refer you to them from page 34 onwards in the relevant annexures, but we don't need to duplicate that.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Then the first possible transaction which hasn't been described in the report is the transaction between Innovo and Tsebo. And Chair, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one.
Yes, no, I'm not here.
And for that, can I ask you to go to page 51 of the report, but before you do so, just check that your copy is suitably redacted, because although Company A is also mentioned on the page, on page 51.
Would you like me to take the visualization, the paragraph on screen?
In fact, we don't need you to take the paragraph on the screen, so the problem doesn't. We don't need to share the screen, so the problem doesn't arise.
Okay.
Can you briefly describe to the chair what the Tsebo contract was and where the irregularity was from page 51, paragraph 33?
Certainly. What was discovered was that on the 8th of June 2012, the Free State Department of Agriculture and Rural Development Bid Evaluation Committee awarded a contract to Tsebo Business Intelligence Service, which I refer to as Tsebo hereafter, to provide engineering services to the department. Moving to the following paragraph, I state the award of the contract to Tsebo was manifestly irregular because the bid evaluation committee scored Sabogo Maloka and Foyun Civil Engineers Pty Limited considerably higher than Tsebo, but decided nevertheless to award the contract to Tsebo as, and I quote, "as this is what the department requires."
And then, can I ask you to go to page 53, paragraph 37, and take the chair through the movement of funds from the Free State Department to the Gupta enterprise through Tsebo. Through Tsebo and then through Innova Management Services.
Certainly. I think for that, I probably will bring up the screen. Should make it slightly easier.
So, sorry, I may have taken you out of turn here, Mr. Holden, but it seems to me we should probably explain to the chair who Innova Management Services are before we get to this movement of funds, even though it appears later in the report. So can I ask you to go to page FOF 53 of Bundle 9, where you describe who Innova Management Solutions are. Paragraph 37.
Certainly, Chair. Innova Management Solutions, Innova, was owned by Ms. Chwayita Mabude, but appears to have been managed by Salim Essa and Ashok Narayan. In that regard, we've attached an annexure which indicates an email address for Innova Management, which was Innova Management 20012 at gmail.com, and that was used to correspond with the Free State Department of Tourism and Economic Affairs, and that was operated by Ashok Narayan. And in those emails, it becomes clear that the department treated ESSA as Innova's representative. I'm sure the chair recalls, but Ms. Mabude has, I think, been discussed in evidence before. She was appointed to the board of Airport Company South Africa from 2012 to 2017 and served 2 terms on the board of Eskom, where I'm informed the commission has heard evidence that she was involved in approving a range of transactions relating to Eskom support for the acquisition of Optimum Coal by the Gupta enterprise.
This might not be in your report, but it would be interesting to establish who the MEC, relevant MEC was for that department in case it is an MEC who has appeared before the Commission in regard to other transactions, but that we can look at later on if it is not dealt with here.
Chair, I think Mr. Holden may be able to answer that question because it was the Agriculture MEC who was the same Agriculture MEC who dealt with the Estina project. Yes,
that was what I was suspecting. So, are you able to confirm that, Mr. Holden?
I'm assuming you're referring to Mr. That's correct. I assume you're referring to Mr. Peter Tabete.
Mr. Tabete wasn't the MEC, he was one of the officials, but the MEC...
Was it Mr. Zwane?
Apologies. Was Mr. Zwane, apologies.
He was the MEC for this department at the relevant time.
Correct, Chair.
Okay, all right.
And then, Mr. Holden, if you can take the chair to page 52 in the table, which shows how the money flowed from the department to Tsebo, and then from Tsebo to Innova. Yes, from the department to Tsebo and then from Tsebo to Innova. We will talk shortly about where it went from Innova.
And that's table 12.
That's correct, Chair. That's correct, Mr. Holden. If you can share the screen at this point, so it would probably be more convenient.
Yes. Here, Chair, what we can see is that the funds that were paid to Tsebo were almost, once they were received by Tsebo, were very frequently paid in a very substantial portion to Innova Asset Management. So on the 19th of July 2012.
Sorry, Mr. Holden. When I look at this table, I realize we haven't settled it in a way that makes clear who owns which, who holds which account. So can you tell the Chair who is the holder of the Standard Bank account 200041363000? And who is the holder of the FNB account 623590911734?
The Standard Bank account is controlled by Tsebo Business Intelligence, and the FNB account is Innova Management Services account.
Okay, I'm sorry. STD there stands for Standard Bank.
Correct, Chair.
And the 2444 account is Tsebo.
That's correct, Chair.
And the other account you mentioned is FNB? Is it the 6?
FNB, First National Bank.
And whose one is that?
That belongs to Innova Management Services.
Sorry?
Innova was what Mr. Holden said, Chair.
Okay.
Innova Management Services.
Thank you. Yeah. You may continue then.
Certainly, Chair. So the first entry we have is on the 19th of July 2012. Tsebo was paid an amount of 1.5 million rand by the Free State Department of Agriculture. The following day, on the 20th of July, of that amount, 1.3 million was paid to Innova. On the 26th of July, an amount of 2,035,000 was paid to Tsebo by the department. 4 days later, on the 30th of July, an amount of 1,835,000 was paid to Innova by Tsebo. On the 2nd of August 2012, an amount of 2,165,000 was paid by the department to Tsebo. And on the 3rd of August, that's the following day, an amount of 1.5 million rand was paid to Innova. 3 days later, on the 6th of August, drawing from the similar set of funds, Tsebo paid to Innova an amount of 660,000 rand. On the 4th of October 2012, the department paid Tsebo an amount of 1,492,500. 4 days later, on the 8th of October 2012, an amount of 1 million rand was transferred from Table to Innova. On the 7th of December, an amount of 22982.46 was transferred from Table to Innova. On that same day, Table had received a payment of 950,000 rand from the department. On the 25th of August 2013, the department paid to Table an amount of 2,850,000. And then a day later, there were two payments from Table to Innova. The first one was for 519,736.85, and the second amount was for 1.5 million. On the 3rd of October 2013, an amount of 1.5 million was paid by the department to Table, of which an amount of 1,052,631.58 was paid by Table to Innova. And we have totals at the bottom here, from which we can see that of the 12,492,500 rand that was paid to Table, an amount of 9,390,350.89 was transferred from Table to Innova.
So is the pattern here that the government department would always make a payment first to Table, and then subsequently Table would pay to Innova?
That is correct, Chair.
Okay.
And then if we go down to table 14, we see what happened to the money that went to Innova. And can you take the chair through table 14, bearing in mind that the report deals with company A above, and that the table funds that go to Innova are mixed with some funds that come from company A. So you will we won't have talked about the company A funds at this stage. But can you take the chair through table 14 to show what happens to the funds when they land in Innova?
Hang on, before that, Mr. Chaskalson, I thought we were dealing with the Department of Tourism and Economic Affairs being the one that was making payments, but I see that in table 12, the reference that is made is to Free State Department of Agriculture.
No, we've been dealing with agriculture all along, Chair.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I made a note on the wrong place. In paragraph 37, I think where Mr. Holden was explaining Innova, who was involved and so on, and I saw the reference to the Department of Tourism and Economic Affairs, and I said it would be interesting to find out who the MEC was. And we talked about Mrs. Zwane, and I was saying he was Minister of this department because I know that he moved from Agriculture in March 2013 to Economic Affairs, I think, but I may be mistaken.
You are correct, Chair, and in fact, if you look at paragraph 37, you'll see that the date is 2014 there.
Yes.
And we'll come to the context in which
one is
these are 2012.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll come to what went on between Innova and Tourism Economic Affairs in 2014 a little later.
Yes, okay, all right. But let me confirm that when Mr. Holden said the MEC was Mr. Zwane, he was referring to paragraph 37, or was he referring to the previous page? Mr. Holden?
Certainly, Chair. What I was intending to say was that during the period in which the Department of Agriculture was making payments to Table Business Intelligence, the MEC. At that point, it was Mr. Zwane.
Oh, okay.
And subsequent to that, and we'll come to this, I'm sure, at a later stage, when Innova is then contracted by the Economic Department, at that stage, Mr. Zwane had moved from Agriculture to that department.
Okay, so he was MEC in both cases.
That's correct, Chair.
Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shaskerson.
And then, Mr. Holden, can you go to table 14 to talk about the first stage of what happens to these amounts that are paid from Table to Innova?
Certainly, Chair. What we have here at Table 14, which should be on the screen now, is a description of the way in which a total amount of 8.9 million rand was paid to Error Haven Trading, which is obviously a well-known Gupta enterprise company by Innova Management. And that happened in the course of 3 separate transfers. The first was on the 15th of August 2012, where 5 million rand was transferred from Innova Management to Error Haven Trading. And that amount is drawn from the payments I've described above, of 1.3 million rand on the 20th of July 2012, an amount of 1,835,000 on the 30th of July, 1.500.00, so that's 1.5 million rand on the 3rd of August 2012, and an amount of 660,000 paid on the 6th of August 2012. And just to make it entirely clear, that's payments from Table to Innova that funded those payments.
Hang on, Mr. Holden. You were dealing with Table 12, isn't it?
Table 14, Chair.
I'm sorry, Table 14. I was looking at the correct table, but I wasn't seeing the figures that you were mentioning. But I think those would be the figures in the narration. Is that right? In the middle column.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, all right. Okay, continue.
Certainly, the second payment was made on the 12th of January 2013, where Innova Management paid an amount of 1.9 million rand to Error Haven Trading. That is drawn from a pre-existing balance that was drawn from the previous payments made into Innova of 295,000 rand, and then additional payments from Table of 1 million rand on the 8th of October 2012, an amount of 22,982.46 on the 7th of December 2012, a payment of 1.5 million rand on the 3rd of August 2012 by Company A. After which there was a balance of 917,982.46 that appeared, that remained in the account. And then 2 months later, on the 5th of March 2013, an amount of 2 million rand was paid from Innova to Error Haven, and that was drawn from the pre-existing balance, which I've just described, at a payment of 432,445 on the 15th of January 2013, and a further 50,000 rand on the 30th of January 2013, and those were paid by Company A. And additional Table payments of 519,736.85 paid on the 26th of February 2013, and a further 1.5 million paid on the 26th of February 2013, which was paid from Table to Innova. And after which the total, as I've just mentioned, is that Error Haven was paid 8.9 million rand by Innova Management, drawn from funds paid to it by Table Intelligence Services and also by Company A.
Then, can you tell the Chair what happened on the 15th of November 2013 after several months after Innova had moved 8.9 million to Aerohaven, and that 8.9 million had ultimately derived from the Free State government.
Certainly, Chair. On the 15th of November, Aerohaven Trading returned that amount of 8.9 million rand and paid it into Innova's account by means of bank transfer. That payment then joined and commingled with a deposit that had been made in by Tebo into Innova's account of 1,052,631.58 that was paid on the 3rd of October 2013.
And can I just stop you there? That 1.052 million payment, did that derive from Free State Department of Agriculture too?
Yes, it did, Chair.
Just to, in table 14, you have that first date there, 15/08/201. I think you said 2012, is that right? Or 2 is at the bottom, it looks like 201, but I think it's 2012. But the way that date is written causes some confusion, because you normally write your dates by starting with the year and then the month and the day. So this one is written the other way. So I was thinking, is it 2015? But I think it is 2012. And I think you did say that. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. And did I miss somewhere, Mr. Chaskason, the explanation of who Aerohaven Trading is in the scheme of things here?
Mr. Holden briefly mentioned it, but maybe, Mr. Holden, can you tell the Chair who Aerohaven is?
Certainly. I can't recall offhand the precise directorships and ownership, but I discussed Aerohaven in quite a lot of detail in relation to the Estina evidence. And Aerohaven is a company that is controlled by the Gupta enterprise. And if my memory serves me correctly, Aerohaven was effectively controlled mostly by Ronica Raghavan. In the Estina evidence, Aerohaven was one of the companies that was used to establish a loan back through which funds were laundered from Estina in a round-tripping exercise.
Okay, thank you.
And if you can go back then to paragraph 43, Mr. Holden, to explain what happened to the 8.9 million that went to Aerohaven.
Certainly. Chair, the 8.9 million that was paid to Aerohaven, paid from Aerohaven, apologies, back to Innova Management, then commingled with a deposit of 1,052,631.58, which was paid by Tebo on the 3rd of October 2013 to increase the balance to, my mental arithmetic is failing me at the moment, but just under 10 million rand, of which then on the 15th of November, Innova transferred an amount of 9,756,500, and that was an amount of $950,000 to Gateway Limited. And Gateway Limited was the Gupta enterprise entity in Dubai, and I'm sure the Chair recalls and has heard much evidence about Gateway.
Yeah.
But in my evidence on Estina and Transnet, I discussed it at length.
Yes.
Then table 15 describes in a table what you've just described in narrative form. I'm not going to ask you to repeat it, but can I ask you to go down to page 57 and explain what happened with the Free State Department of Economic Development in 2014 by starting at paragraph 47.
Certainly. Chair, in 2014, Table Business Intelligence was no longer contracted for. Instead, Innova was directly contracted by the Free State Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs. I was provided an unsigned copy of the contract between the parties, which I've attached. And in the annexure indicates that Innova was represented during that contract by Ms. Maputo and Salim Essa. The contract was for what is referred to as business engineering services, which, as far as I can tell from the attached contract, referred to developing a series of efficiencies in the way in which the department worked. But to be honest, they seem to be a series of unrelated efficiencies, if anything. The total value of that contract was then 6,972,395,04.
So now I remember, Mr. Chaskalson, Mrs. Twaita Mabute. So now I remember, can put the context. I remember the context in which I've had evidence about her. I think it's in relation to ESCOM.
That would be correct, Chair, because she was an ESCOM board member.
Yes, she was a board member, yes. Now I remember, yeah. Okay, good.
In Table 17, you describe how those payments aggregating to 6.972 million were made. And can you tell the Chair what happened to these payments with reference to paragraph 49 in Table 18?
So let me go to so Table 17. We see the distribution of funds from the department to Innova. Chair, I'm opting not to bring it up on screen here because I've noticed that there is a table at the top which describes a payment to a certain individual who I'm informed, the evidence leader informed me that a Rule 33 notice hadn't been delivered to that individual over the weekend. So I don't want to inadvertently relay that name.
Okay, no, that's fine.
To cause a prejudice to that person. So referring to the hard copy then, Table 17 shows that there were 3 payments made. The first was on the 27th of March 2014, and that was an amount of 2,997,096.48. On the 15th of May, 2014, an amount of 1,990,440.00 was paid to Innova by the department. On the 26th of June 2014, an amount of 1,984,858.56 was paid to Innova by the department, bringing us to a total of 6,972,395.04.
And what happened to those funds?
Chair, I think I now can revert back to a table with no fear of revealing any individual. This is Table 18. The title is actually starts on flow of funds 09057, but then the table runs substantively on 09058. And the funds were almost entirely paid to Homex, of which the Commission has heard a substantial amount of evidence. Should I go through the table line by line? I'd imagine so.
Yes.
Or should I stick to the totals?
Yes, I think go line by line is fine.
Certainly. Chair, so first, to repeat the payments that were made in the previous previous table, on the 27th of March 2014, an amount of 2,997,096.48 was paid by the department to Innova. On the 27th of March 2014, an amount of 2,679.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Holden. Are we talking about the exact same day the money arrived from the department?
That's correct, Chair.
Please continue.
The exact same day. Certainly, the exact same day the money arrived from the department, an amount of 2,679,000 was paid from Innova to Homex, and I've calculated that the payment from Innova to Homex was 89% of the funds that were paid by the department to Innova. On the 15th of May 2014, the department paid to ANOVA an amount of 1,990,440. The following day, on the 16th of May 2014, ANOVA paid to HOMIX an amount of 1,881,000, which means that HOMIX was paid 94.5% of the funds that were paid by the department to ANOVA. On the 26th of June 2014, the department paid to ANOVA an amount of 1,984,858.56. And then the following day, ANOVA paid to HOMIX an amount of 1,824,000.00, which I calculate equals 91% of the funds that were paid by the department to ANOVA. And in the bottom line, we can see that in total, the department paid to ANOVA an amount of 6,972,395.04, and subsequently ANOVA made, after receiving those payments either on the same day or shortly thereafter, an amount of 6,384,000, which means that of the funds paid to the department, paid by the department, to Innova, 91.5% of those funds were then transferred immediately onto HOMIX.
Thank you, Mr. Holden.
So, I'm just digesting. So, but Innova and HOMIX were basically controlled by the same people.
Well, one of the same people, because I don't want to suggest that I don't want to be the witness, but we've seen no evidence that Ms. Maputo controlled HOMIX.
Yes.
But we have seen evidence that Mr. Esser controlled HOMIX, and we've also seen evidence that Mr. Holden's referred to today, that Mr. Esser represented Innova in its dealings with the Free State.
Yes. And of course, it's difficult to understand why, if you did any work, you would take 91.5% of your fees and send to somebody else, to another entity that you really have nothing to do with.
Indeed, Chair. Later on in today's evidence, when we get to the laundry entities, of which HOMIX is one, we will see vast amounts of evidence of that sort of phenomenon. Not always on the same sort of scale of 90% plus, but usually on a scale of 50% plus.
Yes. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mr. Holden, the next set of payments on the list I want to take you to are the payments made to the Regiments group, and we've heard a lot of evidence in the Commission about these payments, so I don't want to go into the details of the individual contracts, but what I would want you to do is go to Table 28 on page 75 of the report, where you break up that aggregate figure of an amount paid to Regiments, and you identify which entities were paying Regiments which amounts.
Certainly, Chair. At Table 28, we see the first entry is Transnet, which paid an amount of 1.015,051,242.21. And if I may, I can direct the Chair to the individual payments that make up that amount are set out in a different table, which appears at Flow of Funds 09061, Table 20. I have recorded that in the executive summary to make that slightly easier for the Chair to follow.
Okay, thank you.
The second amount is the Transnet defined benefit. Second defined benefit fund is an amount of 248,729,210, and that appears the full set of payments that underlies that aggregate figure are set out at Flow of Funds 072, Table 26. South African Airways.
Sorry, Mr. Holden, I apologize for interrupting, but maybe to make it simpler, if we can just take the chair, or ask the chair to just to insert a cross-reference to page 9, paragraph 5 of the executive summary, which will have the detail table references, the detail table cross-references, so we don't have to duplicate them in this evidence. So it's page 9, paragraph 5 of the executive summary, has this table with references to the underlying lengthy tables of transactions.
Yeah, I've done so, thank you.
Mr. Holden, can you, for the benefit of, well, the commission record, just go on, you were at SA Airways.
Certainly. South African Airways paid to the Regiments Group an amount of 6,241,500. SA Express paid an amount of 8,218,123.20. The Free State Provident Fund paid an amount of 2,319,216. SAFCOL paid an amount of 5,711,400. And then finally, Denel paid an amount of 7,980,000. And that is a total amount of 1,294,258,69.
You said 258. You meant
250.
I'm sorry, Mr. Holden.
Sorry.
On the total, I think in the middle you said 258. I think you meant 250. You want to call that number out again?
Certainly. Apologies, Chair. It's 1,294,691.41.
Okay, all right. Mr. Cheskelson? Would this be the right time to take a 10-minute adjournment?
Certainly, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, let's take a 10-minute adjournment. We adjourn. Okay, let's continue.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Holden, we've been talking about payments to regiments. One of the line items we've been describing is payments by Transnet to regiments. In your report, you explain that you haven't included all payments from Transnet to regiments. Can you explain to the Chair why there are some payments that you've left out of your accounting?
Certainly, Chair. There are payments that I have not included where those contracts did not involve onward payments to the Gupta enterprise as supply development fees or other fees. And of particular note here is Table 22, which I've brought up on screen. The most notable additional contracts that were placed with regiments were in relation to what's called the Maputo corridor contract. And under that, regiments was paid an amount of 42,151,197.81, but I don't add that figure to the total tally of payments made in relation to state capture involving the Gupta enterprise, because that didn't involve the Gupta enterprise.
And can I, Chair, if I can just give you the reference to that table, it's page 67 of the bundle.
Yes, thank you. I've got it. Thank you.
Just to illustrate the scale of the payments that were subject to state capture, can I ask you to take the Chair to Table 20 on page 61? And I don't need you to read them all off, but maybe if you can just slowly scroll down through that Table 20, which lists all of the payments that you have included in your accounting for state capture, or maybe if you can just explain to the Chair the structure of that table as you scroll down.
Certainly, Chair. What we have here is payments that are made from Transnet to the regiments group. We have the date of the payment, the amount, and then the regiments, the corresponding regiment's invoice number, which is also then referred in the bank statement descriptions in the payments from Transnet to regiments. The table is organized chronologically, so it's as payments come in, you'll start seeing that there are multiple different contracts being invoices rated against multiple different contracts over a period of time. And the following table I disaggregate by contract as well, so we can have a look at that too. So this is just a chronological recording of the total amounts paid over quite a substantial period of time.
Yes.
As you can see on the far right, I've given an indication, a short indication of what it refers to.
Yes.
And then Table 21, can you explain to the Chair how that table is organized?
Certainly, I'm just scrolling down to get there. It's quite a long table, as you can see. Certainly, Chair, what we've done here is disaggregate the payments made by contract, which allows us to establish how much was paid per contract that regiments had with Transnet over a period of time. So this one is not organized chronologically, it is organized by contract instead. And it follows the same pattern as in date on the left, the amount, then the regiment's invoice number that was raised, and then the a shorthand reference to what that contract revolves around.
If I can just interrupt at that point, you also have subtotals for each contract.
That's correct, Jay.
Yes, I can see that. Thank you.
If we can then leave regiments and move on to trillion, and again, there's been substantial evidence before the Commission about trillion, so I would ask you only to go to page 78 of the bundle, table 32, and briefly take the chair through that table, bearing in mind that there is, if I can give Chair a cross-reference to the executive summary, page 11, paragraph 6 has the same table, but with all of the source tables referenced on it as well.
Is that page 11, paragraph 6?
Paragraph 6, indeed.
Okay.
For now, Mr. Holden, can you go to page 78, table 32?
Certainly, Chair. We have an amount that's paid from Eskom to the Trillion Group of 595,228,913.29. From Transnet, a net total of 169,059,999.91. From the Transnet Second Defined Benefit Fund, it's an amount of 185,530,350.08. That is actually a figure that's originally drawn from an amount that's paid to Regiment of 228,983,985, of which the 185 figure is drawn and paid to Trillion. And then finally, we have an amount paid to SA Express of 5.7 million rand, and the total figure we arrive as a result is 9,56,319,263.28.
And then again, Mr. Holden, in relation to the McKinsey contracts, I'm interested only in the amounts which are set out at at table 33 on page 79. Can you take the chair through those? Sorry, page 80 of the bundle, table 33.
Certainly, Chair. Here we have on the far left the description of the relevant SOE, then the amount, and then the relevant contract. In the first line, Eskom paid to McKinsey an amount of 78,572,059.26. That is an amount including VAT, and I give the figure below that. The excluding VAT figure is 68,922,859. And it was the Eskom corporate plan. It was McKinsey work done alongside Regiments, but actually Trillion was paid for this particular contract. Eskom then further paid an amount of 1,029,592,499 in relation to the Eskom turnaround plan, which is referred to as the Master Services Agreement. Which brings us to a subtotal of payments made by Eskom to McKinsey of 1,108,164,558.26. And then moving along, Transnet paid an amount of 41,684,84.64, which was for the Results Management Office. And there is a invoice number there, GSM 12/08/0527.
Sorry, Mr. Holden, if I can just interrupt at that point. It's not an invoice number, it's a contract number or a bid.
Apologies.
If you can continue.
Apologies, the contract number. Certainly, the amount of 120,668,400.56 on the SWAT 1 project with the contract number GSM 12/10/0578. An amount of 31.5 million rand paid by Transnet for the iron ore project, in relation to which the contract number was GSM 14/04/1038. An amount of 105,289,851.23 paid on a coal contract, for which the contract number is GSM 14/04/103. an amount paid by Transnet of 163,701,410.72, paid on the NMP1 and 2 contracts, and that is a contract number GSM 14/04/104, an amount of 78,582,492 paid by Transnet in the manganese contract, for which the contract number is GSM 14/04/1039. Transnet then paid a further amount of 71,947,581.65 in relation to the SWAT 2 contract, and that is contract number GSM 14/04/1052, and an amount of 74,596,740.25, which refers to the General Freight Business Breakthrough Contract, which I sort of referred to in the report as the GFB contract, which is against contract number GSM 15/03/1255, which brings us to a subtotal of payments made by Transnet of 687,970,961.05, followed by one further amount paid by SAA of 6,243,210, which when added to the rest of the payments brings us to a total of 1,802,378,729.31.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. We now move to Neotel, and here we're going to need to talk a little bit about why you have categorized these payments as payments tainted by state capture, because I understand.
The first was a Cisco equipment contract concluded on 21st of February 2014, and a master services agreement concluded on the 19th of December 2014 to provide network services to Transnet. In addition to these two contracts, in May 2014 and March 2015, Neotel concluded two CCTV contracts with Transnet, from which payments were made to a company by the name of TechPro. In relation to the...
Sorry, Mr. Holden, can you just explain who TechPro are?
Certainly. TechPro is, I'm trying to remember what the full name is. TechPro is an entity that delivered certain of the hardware in relation to the CCTV contract, effectively a subcontractor of Neotel and Liquid Telecommunications in relation to this contract. Funds were paid to TechPro, and from TechPro they were paid out to Homex. I think the full name is Technology Procurement Holdings, if I recall correctly.
Yes, I seem to recall that too. Can you go to paragraph 82, because I think it touches on an issue which is very important in relation to state capture, which is the role of auditors. And in this case, we have auditors who did their work appropriately, and they should be commended for that.
Certainly, Chair. What we have in relation to these contracts is that Deloitte identified the payments that were made to Homex as irregular and refused to properly certify those final annual reports on that basis. Indeed, it was actually this particular reporting which brought to the public's light, the degree of the Gupta Enterprises' involvement in state capture and effectively began the process that has ended in this commission.
And then, can you take the Chair briefly through the total amounts of payments made to Neotel by Transnet that were tainted in this way by state capture?
Certainly. On the 7th of March 2014, under the Cisco equipment contract, an amount of 69,067,039.72 was paid. On the 14th of May 2014, also on the Cisco equipment contract, an amount of 276,268,158.90 was paid. On the 23rd of December 2014, in relation to the Master Services Agreement asset buyback fee, an amount of 228,000,000.00, that's 228 million rand was paid. On the same day, an amount was paid in relation to the Master Services Agreement mobilization fee for an amount of 256,500,000.00, that's 256,500,000 rand. Between 2015 and 2018, in relation to the CCTV contract, a very large number of payments were made, totaling 827,441,799.18. And between 2015 and 2019, in relation to the Master Services Agreement fees, an amount of 3,924,678,473.83 was paid, for a total amount paid of 5,581,955,471.63.
The next entity on your list was Combined Private Investigations. To the best of my knowledge, the Commission hasn't heard much evidence in relation to Combined Private Investigations. Can you explain why you have included them on your list, and maybe if you can start with paragraph 84 and then move to paragraph 87?
Certainly, Chair. There's two primary reasons why we focused on combined private investigations. The first is that between January 2013 and January 2016, combined private investigations was making monthly payments to Gupta Enterprise fund companies, and actually paid to a number of different of them over time. Initially, the monthly payment amounts totaled 500,000 rand, although this increased to 1.459.200 per month from October 2013, and to 1,575,760.37 from the 17th of November 2015 until the final payment at the end of January 2016. The payments were first made to a front company called Chivita, then Homex, then Foreshore Consultants, and finally Majul. In the evidence that we'll discuss, the first level laundries, all of those entities are effectively controlled by the Gupta Enterprise, or alternatively were receiving funds and dissipating them on behalf of the Gupta Enterprise. In relation to this contract, the Financial Surveillance Department of the South African Reserve Bank made contact with Combined Private Investigations in relation to the discovery that CPI had made payments to Homix, Chavita, and Forsure, and incorrectly identified payments made to IPOC Global. There weren't actually payments made to IPOC Global, although I do deal with that company in greater detail at a later stage. In response to that, CPI's attorneys, Arthur Channon, replied to the South African Reserve Bank explaining why they were making these payments on a regular basis to various Gupta first-level laundry entities. And what was particularly interesting there in relation to, and I set this out at paragraph 87, is that they were approached, CPI was approached in late 2012 by Salim Essa allegedly on behalf of Chavita. And Salim Essa at that time indicated to the CPI that he could secure further business for them, as he was, and I quote here, he was well connected, and a further quote is that he was a deal broker, and a further quote was that Salim Essa was a rainmaker. The Combined Private Investigations further then indicated that Essa worked alongside and with Mr. John Duarte, who is the ex-husband of Mrs. Jessie Duarte, and Malcolm Abasso, who, as the Commission no doubt knows, was a former advisor to Masebenzi Zwane, and that these three members would then provide consultancy services to CPI to help secure its business. In that same affidavit, CPI justifies the payments under the very broad explanation that they believe that the payments made to this, what they call the team of Essa, Duarte, and Mabasso, would increase the profitability of CPI.
And now you list in your in your report contracts that CPI concluded with a range of different organs of state and some municipalities, some state-owned enterprises. In your accounting, you have confined yourself to the payments that they received. Sorry, I'm talking about payments they received, not payments that they made. In your accounting, you've confined yourself to payments received from Transnet. Can I ask you to go to paragraph 90 and explain why you include only the payments made by Transnet to CPI in your overall accounting?
Certainly, Chair. In describing, in CPI's version that was put on record by Arthur Channon's attorneys, they described the reasoning behind certain contracts, but it's only in relation to the contracts involving Transnet, where they indicated specifically that the Gupta Enterprise entity was paid as part of a supply development obligation at Transnet, which was 20% of value from 2013 to 2015, and 40% of value from 2015 to 2018, which is to say, in more straightforward terms, that we can confirm from CPI's own version that the payments that it made to Gupta Enterprises in relation to the Transnet contract were specifically because CPI had contracted with the Gupta Enterprise companies. But we cannot make that same conclusion, can't reach that same conclusion in relation to the other contracts that CPI have enumerated. And I'd imagine that it may be that the Commission would like to find out whether there were further supply development agreements that justified the payments from other entities, or whether it was just confined to Transnet.
And then, if I can ask you to go down to page 86, table 36, where you itemize the Transnet payments, and just very briefly take the Chair through that table, because the amounts are very similar. I don't think we need to go line by line, but briefly take the Chair through the table and to the total.
Certainly. Chair, what we have here is
it table
payments
36?
made...
Sorry, Chair, table 36, indeed.
Oh, okay, all right.
This is the Transnet payments only.
Okay, all right.
Chair, table 36 sets up...
Yes, I'm there.
payments to combined private investigations at a specific account number, which I provide there, by Transnet from the 23rd of January 2014 to the 1st of April 2016. And you can see they're very regular numbers, effectively usually 7.48 million rand, but sometimes increasing up to 8 million rand. And the final payment is made on the 1st of April 2016. And the total figure there was 151,698,373.17.
Yes.
Then the next line item on which it may be necessary to go to some explanation of the contracts is the SAP contracts, SAP contracts that were awarded by Eskom and Transnet, and you deal with them at the foot of page 89 of the bundle, paragraph 91. Can you take the chair briefly through those contracts?
Certainly, Chair. There were 4 contracts that were awarded to SAP by SOEs and the South African Revenue Service, against which SAP paid commission fees to 2 Gupta Enterprise companies, Global Softtech Solutions and CAD House. The total contract value of these 4 contracts was 790,616.247.45. And the commissions paid by SAP are dealt with in detail further on in the report in relation to payments to first level laundry entities and other Gupta Enterprise entities. First contract was awarded by SAP on the 27th of December 2014 by Transnet. They were contracted to deliver services related to a software license support agreement. The total value of the contract, including that, was 111,870,480, against which a VAT exclusive Transnet credit was set off, leaving an amount of 74,100,000, that's 74,100,000 rand, to be paid by Transnet to SAP. And the invoices and order forms are attached to the report at Annex 18. The second contract was
before you leave
SAP on the 30th.
Hang on, I think you have lost me, or I have lost you. What page did you refer to, Mr. Taskerson?
We're on page 90, and Mr. Holden has just taken us through paragraph 92.
Oh, okay. I think I was on 91, and then I moved much back. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mr. Holden, you recall you were saying that the amount that had to be paid after the Transnet credit was 74,100,000. Can you recall off the top of your head what the amount paid to the relevant Gupta Enterprise subcontractor was?
I cannot recall. I'm afraid I can't recall off the top of my head.
Well, then let us get to it later, and I'll take you back. I'll take you back. If you can go then to paragraph 93.
Certainly. The second contract was awarded to SAP on the 30th of September 2015 by Transnet. SAP were delivering services related to software license support agreements related to the supply of Hybris and Remix software. The total contract value was 114,012,644.88, inclusive of that, and was paid by Transnet on the 1st of April 2016. And the relevant order form is attached at Annex 19. The third contract was awarded to SAP on the 31st of March 2016 by Eskom. SAP were contracted to deliver services related to a software license support agreement. The total contract value was 70,158,284.70 and was paid by Eskom on the 17th of June 2016. And again, the relevant SAP order form is attached at Annex 20. The fourth contract was awarded to SAP on the 25th of November 2016 by Eskom. SAP was contracted to deliver services related to a further software license and support agreement. The total contract value was 494,574,837,87, and that was paid by Eskom on the 23rd of December 2016, and the relevant SAP order form is attached as Annex 1 to the report.
Although I said we'd get there later, it may make sense to do that now, because it's quite interesting to see what the amounts paid to the Gupta enterprise companies were relative to the amounts paid to SAP. Can I ask you to go to page 213 of Bundle 9, 213, paragraph 280, and explain the relationship between what the Gupta enterprise got relative to what SAP got from Eskom and Transnet.
I'm afraid I've lost your reference there.
Page 213, Flow Funds Bundle 9, page 213.
Okay. And
it's paragraph 280.
That's correct. Okay, apologies, Chair. In relation to the payment of 74.1 million rand that was paid by Transnet to SAP, SAP paid Global Softtech Solutions an amount of 7,410.00, and that is equal to 10% of the contract figure that was awarded to SAP by Transnet, which is effectively, as far as I understand, a 10% success fee in relation to this contract.
And then if one goes down to table 124, which talks about the payments by SAP to CAD House on the other three contracts, if you can take the chair through that table.
Certainly the payments to CAD House by SAP Africa, there were three payments. The first payment was made on the 8th of April 2016 in an amount of 16,987,884.09, and that was a payment from SAP Africa to CAD House, and that was a 14.9% commission on a payment of 114,012,644.88 that was made by Transnet in relation to SAP order form 59. On the 4th of July 2016, an amount of 9,245,459,01, and the payment was made from SAP to CAD House, and that appears to be a commission on 70,158,284.70 that was paid by Eskom on the 17th of June against SAP order form 24. And then finally, on the 28th of December 2016, an amount of 73,691,650.84 was paid by SAP to CAD House, and that was a 14.9% commission on the largest contract that SAP received in relation to state capture of the Gupta enterprise, and that contract was worth 494,574,837.87, and that was paid by Eskom on the 23rd of December 2016. The total amount then paid to CAD House by SAP in relation to those contracts was 99,924,993.94.
And we see that two of the three payments are 14.9% commissions. Is there anything that you can say about that?
Certainly, it appears to be a very large sum of money, and I'd be very interested to find out precisely what services were being provided by CAD House that would provide for a percentage commission. I should mention, and in a very long period of work on anti-corruption matters, percentage-based commissions are considered some of the most dangerous in terms of prejudice to the state. And that's partially because where there are potentially corrupt actors involved, if it's a percentage commission on a state payment, the corrupt actors may seek to increase the cost of the state contract in order to increase their potential absolute value as expressed as a percentage.
It looks like it might be the convenient time, Mr. Taskelson.
Thank you, Chair. It is, in fact, a very convenient time to take a break.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we'll take the lunch adjournment and we'll resume at 2. We adjourn.